Hi, everyone. It's Carrie again here with another day of updates from the West trial. We are now on day 9, and they had quite a few witnesses come up today. A couple people from the police department, and we'll just go over that really quickly. Officer Ryan, who had been on the stand last week, continued on with his questioning, and Jacqueline's attorney, Torres Stallings, got up and she really grilled him hard. Let me just put it this way: her parting words to him were, she said, "What did you tell Jacqueline before you walked out of the room that last time?" And I think he said something like, he said, "If I'm wrong, I owe you an apology or come back and apologize to you," or something like that, after he grilled her. And of course, Tora Stallings made this big dramatic thing like, "And we look forward to it," or something like that. I didn't write down exactly what she said to him, but it was something like that. It was like her dramatic last statement to him before she said, "No more questions." So, yeah, they just kind of went back and forth with him on about the interview with Jacqueline because he was in there as well, several of them in there. And she had said, you kept telling her she was going to lose her family, her friends, her husband, everything. Everybody was going to turn on her. When the DA was questioning Ryan, he asked him about some bank records, which I kind of wonder. I think they're, I'm sure it doesn't hurt for the jury to understand that all of their income was coming from the adoption of these children. Tora Stalling, Jacqueline's attorney, really got into more on Ryan about, like, what is your training? And he had previously worked on the gang unit at Bakersfield Police Department. And she had asked him how many cases he had worked in the gang unit. And he said he couldn't recall. And then Ryan also said when he was on patrol, he had worked dozens of missing cases. He said maybe one or two of those were children. And she asked him if he had specialized in any. Wait, I'm sorry. Did he receive any specialized training as a liaison for the FBI? And he said just on the job experience working with the agents. And she asked him how many times he had worked a missing persons case with the FBI. And he said just this one. Let's see. Torres Selling was asking about Kearns County's peculiar location due to its proximity to I-5 and 99. And she was kind of leaning towards that, yeah, going towards human trafficking. And Ryan says, yes, this tends to relate to human trafficking investigations, this area. It's really good of her to bring that up. And then she asked him if he was taking orders from the FBI, not Cal City. And he said, yes, I was taking orders from the FBI. She asked him if he had been to Jacqueline and Trezell's home before he interviewed Jacqueline, and he said no. He said at that time he was canvassing the area for the boys. Ryan said he didn't review any video surveillance before that. And at one point, she had asked him, like, well, you went out of the room and then you came back in. She goes, how long, when you went out of the room, what were you doing? He goes, I was kind of trying to get like a recap, like what's going on with this case. Cause I guess that I was so new to it at that point. And she goes, oh, so it only took 5 minutes. He's like, yeah. She wanted to find out who he had gotten all the information from, who brought him up to speed when he came in. And he said it was likely Officer Brian Hansen, which we know Torres Stalling already got all over him. Okay, now she did ask him about a debriefing before he interviewed Jacqueline, and I don't know if this wasn't the part that I was leaning in on though, because she said that he said he had a small one with him, Officer Hansen, and Chief Hightower. Well, he wasn't chief then, but Hightower was a lieutenant at the time. And he said that when he spoke to Hansen, he did let him in on the interviews he had had with the West boys the night before or the day before. And then Torres Stallings wanted to know if Jacqueline was able to sleep or eat prior to her second interview. He said he wasn't sure, he didn't know. She asked the same for Trezell, and he says he didn't know. Torres Stallings wanted to know if the skills for interviewing a suspect are different than when interviewing a witness, and he says, well, yes. For example, when interviewing a witness, one would want to ask more open-ended questions. When interviewing a suspect, one would want to ask more pointed questions. And Torres Stallings asked Ryan if he told Jacqueline about her children being taken as an intimidation tactic. Ryan says that was just a fact. She asked him if he remembers telling Jacqueline that she would lose her house, her car, her friends, and family. He said yes. And he said that there was a slim chance that the boys had been taken by a stranger. And Torres Stallings pointed out that children reported missing in Kern County in 2020, there was over 4,400. 14 of those were abduction cases. 8 were considered suspicious circumstances. And Ryan said, I didn't know about those stats. She asked him if any of his previous missing persons investigations were runaways. Ryan said yes. She said, would this be considered his first non-runaway investigation? And he wanted her to define it as a runaway. She forgoes the question. She just threw that in there. He did mention that at one point when he was interviewing Jacqueline, he mentioned a surveillance video, and he was going off of something that Hansen had said. He had not seen it himself. He said that he did not review a video or go to the home where it came from to see how far it was from the West home. He did not ask about it. He never watched a video from the home where this surveillance was coming from. I'm trying to figure out where that. How did I miss this? Oh, they're just talking about random. He did say he watched on December 27th was the first day that he started watching the videos, surveillance videos around the neighborhood. They were watching the video of Trezell's van as it was coming and going, looking for the boys. And at that point, you see some lights flickering, I guess off ways or something. And she said, whose car is that? He said, I have no idea. And she makes a big thing. She goes, okay, so a vehicle is seen leaving a nearby residence, and Ryan doesn't know who that vehicle is. They were talking about the way the lights going on and off in the West home, like during all this time of all this was going on when they were trying to originally find the children, or quotation marks, when the children originally went missing, that they were reported. And she was asking him about motion sensor lighting, and he said he doesn't know if that light was a motion sensor light or not, because there was one that came on as they're watching the video. I guess she paused it, and she said, you can clearly see someone right there. Something's moving back there, correct? And he said yes. And it was like a shadow in the backyard of the West home. An individual who has popped up. The video continues to play. And then they went back to surveillance video. Now, they start talking about when he was walking around the house, what did he see, and what are the things that stood out to him. He said he saw the children's room, very few toys. He said he saw maybe 1 or 2 Christmas gifts for the kids. He said he didn't see toothbrushes for them. He was told a used diaper was found a year later at the home. He said he saw some children's clothes of various sizes. There was some kind of mark on the glass door. It, like a fingerprint on on one of the sliding glass doors in the back. And he didn't know if anyone had grabbed that evidence. And I guess she had asked him, well, do you know of any other smudge marks around the home? And he said no. And he said that it was a week from the reported disappearance, he saw the marks on the glass door. So he went to a different residence to get access to security footage, but he couldn't get it until, or he couldn't really look at it until December 27th. He doesn't know if it was continuous footage. He said the homeowner was not able to access it because he wasn't home. It wasn't until that later they got access, and he says he doesn't know if anyone else received a statement from the homeowner saying that a black woman had driven through the desert area that night. Then they played the video from December 21st, which was the day the boys were reported missing. And Ryan said that he watched those two videos on the 27th. He said he didn't know the first video that Taurus Stallings played had been digitally enhanced by FBI and doesn't know if other videos were enhanced. The video shows a van pull up, people get out. Taurus Stallings asked again if he knows if anyone was carrying a child. Ryan said no. She showed him a second video. It's from the same camera angle. And she had asked him if he contacted a neighbor who was seen in the video after the van pulls away. Ryan said he doesn't know if anyone asked that neighbor if they saw the 6 children enter the van. And Taurus Stelling asked, well, do you know if any of the individuals were carrying children that day? He said, it didn't seem so. She said, well, but do you know that for sure? And he said, no. Because they were talking about the number of people walking in, getting in the van. It was difficult from what the reporter said that was in the courtroom. She said it was really difficult to make out in the video clothing or any kind of distinguishing characters of each person that was getting into the van. Ryan said he couldn't identify the faces or ages of the children who entered the West van, and Taurus Stalling is showing him a portion of the video he reviewed. She asked him to admit it into evidence, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So on the December 27th video, they are sure that it did show a total of 4 children entering the van. And I guess where she was going with that is, all right, well, how do you know 2 of them weren't being carried? And I guess the video footage is really bad if they can't tell that. Okay, so going back to the interview, she's like, so you're doing all you can to connect with Jacqueline in this interview, correct? He's like, yeah. She said, okay, so would you say that you were using intimidation factors to, when you told Jacqueline that her children were going to be taken away? And he said, no, the kids had already been removed. She also asked him at one point if he noticed that, or if he knew that Officer Hansen had put his hand on Jacqueline's knee. He said he heard about it later. She also asked if he knew that Hansen had placed his hand on the small of her back. He said no, he wasn't aware of that. To me, I didn't, when they were pushing Hansen on, when he touched her, I didn't even hear them go there with his hand on the small of her back. She got Ryan to say on the stand that he had 0 formal psychological or neurological training when it comes to interrogating people. He said there are differences when it comes to interviewing witnesses as opposed to suspects. She wanted him to reiterate what he had done in his initial arrival on scene, and he said that he searched fields, he drove around looking for surveillance video. He did not speak with anyone from Cal City. He said he did not review any video before interviewing Jacqueline West. So I guess, I mean, she's trying to make a big deal of them pointing it at her, and they weren't looking in any other direction so early on. He said that he arrived on December 22nd and was on the street, but not in their home. Before he interviewed Jacqueline, he didn't go into the home. And she said, okay, so when you were called in and you arrived on December 22nd, were you going in for a missing persons case or a homicide? And he said, I was going in for a missing persons case. Okay, then they had it was a volunteer actually. They say that she's a volunteer officer, I guess. she's a dog handler, basically. She brought a dog by the name of Sadie in, and she said when she first got to the home, the first night was to follow the route of the van to see if the boys had been dumped. He showed no interest in the van or on a 2-mile walk that led into the desert. And when Hennessy got up to talk to her, he brought up that he asked her if she was aware if the search of the spot Sadie alerted on returned no human remains, and she said she was aware of that. And then when the DA got back up and crossed her again, redirect, he had her point out that the animals do know the difference between human and animal remains. Sullivan said that a law enforcement officer took a couple inches off the mound before Sadie smelled it. After that layer was removed, Sadie alerted by lying down in that area. She was signaling to something. As to exactly what it was, I do not know. Okay, so that witness's full name was Tammy Sullivan, and she's a Kern County search and rescue canine trainer and swift water technician. They went over the canine training, obviously, and DA Smith played a video of a search that Sullivan conducted with her canine Sadie at the West home. In the video, Sadie reacts in the backyard. Sullivan says that reaction was an alert that she located something. Sullivan said that it was for human remains detection, which could have been for blood, bones, or fluid. Hennessy was asking when he got up there. Now, Hennessy is Trezell's attorney. He was asking if the canine was getting distracted by another dog in the video. Sullivan said that she did. And they were talking about, too, the difference between the smell the canines can distinguish on the blood and the fluids from a live person versus a dead person. And Sullivan says in her training and what she understands and what she's read that when someone dies, there's an immediate odor that is given off. And they asked her if she was told to lead the canine on the route that the van took. And she said she does not remember being told to lead the canine on the route that the van took that night. All right. They had, I might be going out of order here because my notes are all messed up. Let's see. Martinez came up. Now, Martinez, is he the one that was there was a CSI like special supervisor. I'm trying to think here. Which one was he? Okay. The Bakersfield Police Crime Lab supervisor was Jeffrey Cecil. He wasn't up there long at all. He basically said they had a ground penetrating radar search on the West home. So he was just kind of talking about how they have a ground penetrating radar that searched around the West home and that he was kind of explaining how that worked within the ground. Tori Stallings did give him a cross and she asked him what that, what were they looking for or, what was he explaining earlier? And he said, any kind of disturbance such as human remains, pipes, plants, rocks, etc., it can pick all that up. She asked him if anything was found relating to this investigation and he told her there was not. She asked him about his training in regards to fingerprints, and he said he is a certified latent print examiner, meaning he is certified to lift fingerprints and compare them to individuals. And Torres Stalling asked him if it was easier to lift fingerprints from smooth surfaces, and he says yes. She asked him if he lifted any fingerprints from a glass sliding door. Cecil says he doesn't believe he did any fingerprinting, nor does he recall being asked to. That was it. Then Victor Nasser, who is part of Trezell West's defense team, got up, and he was asking again about the ground penetrating radar and asked if they did it anywhere else. And he says yes, but nothing was found at the other location. That was pretty much it. They let him go. Like I said, he was quick. Then they brought up Destiny Martinez. She's the police lab technician that I was thinking of. Okay. And this was kind of boring, really, because they were just kind of showing images of what was taken out of the van and the city home and the Cal City home. And then the photos of the children's room all have clothes and toys inside them. One of the closets had diapers in it. And she was just kind of going through each item. So they were talking about the car seats. Hang on. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so she was showing the images of the car seats collected from the West van. She did swab and photograph the seats. She seized a used diaper that was found in a bag in the classroom area of the home. She also seized a pair of paring shears, and she obtained the surveillance video from Dollar General. The There were several of them. There was like 4 or 5 different dates, but they were all in September 2020. And then Torrid Stallings got up and did a cross on her and asked her if she knew about the chain of custody. She asked how many detectives were at the residence as she was collecting evidence. She wasn't sure, but about 4 to 5. Martinez says when she went to the home, she just knew that there were 2 missing boys and that they were taking over the case and that they were conducting a search warrant on the residence. Martinez says she believes she was there at least an hour to an hour and a half. They started talking about Blue Star test, and it's a test that can detect blood on surfaces. Martinez said that the test works almost immediately, meaning if after it's sprayed in an area with the solution in a dark room, it would be fluorescent. We've all seen that on CSI. We know what she's talking about. Even if you were to clean up the blood, it is still possible for her to pick up remnants depending upon what's left behind, she said. And then Taurus Stalling brings it up again, just to confirm that no one tested fingerprints on the backyard's glass sliding door. And she said no. And one thing that Taurus Stalling brought up, so she pulls out several pictures of evidence. And she's showing her these pictures, and she said, all these pictures in this folder were labeled December 29th, right? I guess she's talking about all of her evidence she have there. She's like, yeah. She's like, we're all marked with homicide labels. So she wanted to throw that in there for the jury to hear that. And she said, so this was treated as a homicide investigation since December 29th. Now remember, the boys were reported missing, I think it was the 21st. And Martinez told her that those stickers would be put on by the evidence room. Then they got into touch DNA, and we're talking a little bit about the car seats and swabbing the car seats, including the chest belts and the preservation of evidence, especially when it comes to DNA swabs. The diaper was seized into evidence hadn't been seized until a year later, which during that time it was in a trash can. That is so odd. And Taurus Stallings wanted to know what kind of impact the diaper could have had while it sat in the trash for a year. Martinez says she doesn't know. Who would want that job to have to deal with that evidence? Oof. And once again, Taurus Stalling left off with a dramatic ending where she was talking about her last question to Martinez was the gardening shears being seized into evidence. So I guess she wanted to make a point. I guess from her standpoint, she's just trying to get I get what she's doing. I mean, we all know what she's doing. She's just trying to get them to kind of lean towards the whole they didn't look at any other suspects. They went straight to the west and they immediately said it was a homicide. They didn't look enough into the fact that the boys could have been picked up by somebody else. They could have been kidnapped. And I guess the whole gardening shears being seized could be like, oh, were you thinking that was something that the West did, used in doing away with the children or something? Almost to laugh it off that they would do something like that. All right, so then Victor Nasser, who's part of Trezell's defense team, gets up there and starts asking him about procedure. Martinez was asking Martinez about procedure. And that was kind of boring. That was kind of quick. Then they had Hernandez come up. So this is Detective Paul Hernandez. Now, he's assigned as a robbery homicide detective as well as a bomb squad. And the DA was asking about his viewing of surveillance videos. He viewed about 24 hours worth of video. The video is a 24-hour period on December 21st. Around 2:48 a.m., the porch light was activated. Around 3:48 a.m., the light turns on and off again. Around 4:05 a.m., a vehicle drives by. Around 10 in the morning, Hernandez says he noticed an individual takes items out of the house and places them in the trash. Hernandez said around 4:30 p.m. the van departs and returns a few minutes later. He said around 5:10 p.m. law enforcement begins to arrive at the scene. That was it, because they're going to bring him back up again tomorrow. So they're still on that same video. They keep bringing that same video up. Now, Martinez, the crime lab lady, she went to the house 3 times. Once for the search warrant, a second time when pruning shears were located, and a third time when the diaper was seized. She said the pruning shears had not been seized until she took them in January of 2021. Okay, so that Dollar General store where they were looking at those, that was on Cottonwood Road. I'm trying to figure out what that was about. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. So they found a receipt in the West's van for the Dollar General. And there were like 3 or 4 different pinpoints where they had pulled out video surveillance from that area. But then I thought I saw more on that, but I guess not. I was hoping somebody else took better notes than I did on that. Okay, here it is. That video was requested by Detective Riccardi, and he wanted security video from the 12th, the 16th, the 20th, and the 22nd of September from that Dollar General. She put it on a drive for him. She got it. She put it on drive for him, and then that was it. I guess they were probably wanted to see who actually went to the store, how many kids were there. And yeah, they didn't really get that far with Hernandez. So they're going to start back tomorrow with Hernandez. I think he's still being questioned by the DA. So he'll also get the cross, and it sounds like he was just the one that got all the video, and his responsibility was just going through all the videos. So that should be kind of interesting tomorrow, maybe. We'll see what happens. So thank you for hanging in there. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps you guys keep up with what's going on in the case. Hopefully something really good's going to happen soon here. I'm waiting for that ball to drop. Where's it at? Where's this? Of course, I don't know. Put in the comments below. What are you thinking right now? With all that we've talked about, with all the evidence that's been discussed, with the interviews, the videos, all that we've talked about, and you guys have seen some of this stuff on TV, I'm sure, as well, or on YouTube before. Do you think that the evidence or what's been presented to the jury, if you were on the jury right now, would you be leaning towards these children just being kidnapped, disappeared? Or would you think, well, considering the kids testified they haven't seen them since they weren't in the Cal City home, according to the other children? See, I'm leaning towards the jury, thinking that, yeah, they're going down. I don't know. We'll see. So, y'all have a blessed evening, and I will be back again with the next video within the next 24 hours on these 2 in their trial for the unaliving of Orrin and Orson West. Have a blessed evening, everyone.